Welcome to the channel, guys. Today we are going to do the weekly roundup. So welcome to the weekly roundup. Today's session is going to be a summary of the week's things that have happened this year, the PNP draws, the updates, some discussion on things that we want to talk about in terms of the backlogs. We want to talk about the PR to PR updates that have happened. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, then you gotta you gotta click on that subscribe button, and give us a like if you think this is of some value, and we shall get going immediately. Where's my mouse? All right, here we are. Canadian Immigration Weekly Roundup for this particular week, which was the week of 21st of August. Start as usual with provincial nominee programs. Manitoba invites 275 in the new PNP draw. The skilled workers in Manitoba 238. Skilled worker overseas, only 6 invitations with a score of 719. International education stream, 31 invitations. So total collective 275 new invitations were given in the PNP draw. Mind you, for Manitoba PNP, you need to have connection to the province. So before you start wondering that the draw was high or draw was low and you should apply for PNP Manitoba, you need to have connection to the province. When I'm saying connection to the province, means you need to have past work experience, past studies, job offer, relative, which is one of the most popular route of going through the Manitoba PNP. There is also another option from Manitoba PNP connection, and that is the exploratory visit. So before the COVID hit, Manitoba would also allow for exploratory visits. They would open to accept invitations for exploratory visits, and people who they would choose, they would give them endorsement. Those people could then apply for their visit visas, come to Manitoba, do their exploratory visits, and after that, that exploratory visit was considered as connection to the province, based on which they could apply for their nomination. Another aspect of Manitoba is also the modern community. They also have a separate program. You should, if you do not know about the modern community program, you should check it out. They have a very good program. The requirements are absolutely minimal in terms of the IELTS, in terms of your other criteria. But yes, of course, they have very specific occupation requests. The only issue is that they take very small number of applications per year. So it's very hidden kind of a thing. Not many people talk about it, but you should always, you should go and check out the modern immigration page. And if at all your knock code, if your work experience is something which they need, which they require, then you should give it a shot. Next we was the biggest PNP draw of 2021 was held by Alberta. When they say biggest PNP draw, basically they issued 396 invitations. It's big for them because they have otherwise issued 190, 200 invitations. This time they have issued 396 invitations. Now what happens is, with Alberta, people get quite confused. People start wondering, why did they not get invited? Because the lowest score for Alberta was 300. So profiles more than 300 were invited under this draw. This basically gets everybody quite concerned. This gets everybody quite concerned, quite worried that my score is 350, 380, 390, 400, 420, 440 kind of scores. Why didn't I get invited? Well, that's the problem with Alberta, is that they do not disclose the exact criteria under which they have selected these profiles. They do give a lot of preference to people who are already inside Alberta, people who are working in Alberta, who have a job offer in Alberta, people who have relatives. By relatives, I mean siblings in Alberta. They do get a preference in being picked out. In addition to that, they also have a requirement of certain NOC codes, of a certain occupation codes. Again, they don't announce these. You won't really know which ones they have picked out. We come to know about them only because people exchange that information on the social media groups, and we then pick up that information and we know, okay, these NOCs were invited. If you get an invitation from Alberta, hooray, like you were one of the lucky ones who got it. Don't mess it up. Alberta nomination is pretty priceless. Priceless because if your express entry profile expires within the processing, you will lose your nomination. They will not extend it. If for some reason your express entry application for PR, that is rejected for whatever reason, Alberta will not give you the nomination. That particular nomination, again, you will have to reapply. Versus other provinces whereby they make an exception, they will reissue your nomination, they will extend your nomination. Saskatchewan does it, Ontario does it, but not Alberta. So with Alberta, you have to be very, very careful if you have received the notification of interest. If you have received it, congratulations. The next one we have is the BC, British Columbia. Again, PNP program, very popular. They have invited 435 immigrant applications through 4 different PNP draws that were held on the 17th of August. So far this year, they have invited more than 7,500 candidates, which is great. BC PNP also is a great province in terms of how regular they are in inviting the people for these programs. I mean, they are not the ones who would not conduct draws for a very long time. They actually conduct the draws quite frequently, almost every week. If you wish to apply to BC PNP, the only issue is that you need a job offer for most of their immigration programs. The only stream that doesn't need a job offer is their international graduate stream, whereby you should have completed at least a master's degree under some very specific programs which have been mentioned on their website. So go take a look at that, and if you are eligible, then apply. But otherwise, for BC PNP, you will need a job offer from an employer in British Columbia. Yeah. Next one we have was the Ontario draw. Ontario also conducted their first invitation round for masters and PhD graduates, and 479 people were invited under this draw. For the master's graduate, the minimum score was 39. And for PhD graduates, the minimum score was only 17, which is amazing. To give you a bit of background, master's and PhD graduate stream basically is for those people who have completed their master's or PhD in Ontario within a specific period of time. So it cannot be that you've completed 5 years, 10 years back and you're eligible. I don't remember. I haven't read that in some time. So I think it's about 2 years, but do give it a look. Check if you are eligible. Check if you are studying in Ontario. Check if you have completed your master's in Ontario. You have completed your PhD in Ontario. Then you would be able to apply through the stream. This is an EOI stream, which basically means you just don't get picked up. You will have to apply. Means you will have to create your expression of interest. Create your expression of interest on the Ontario website. If your scores are high enough, like this one was, what was it? 39 for masters and only 17 for PhD stream. Well, if your scores are at this level and higher, then obviously you can expect to get picked up in the next draw, which is great. Express entry. Of course, we have express entry. 463 PNP applicants were invited to apply for PR with the score of only 751. I mean, each week we keep our fingers crossed. Each week we are hopeful. Each week we are thinking, okay, maybe this week there will be a FSW or an all program draw. This is not the news that CEC applicants like to hear, but it's everybody else except CEC who really are hoping and praying for an all program draw. But again, let's come back to the point at right now. So this was the PNP draw. So PNP draw basically means people who have received nomination, who have received 600 points for their PNP application. They've got the 600 points. They are in the express entry pool, and they have now got an invitation. A total of 463 such people were invited with the lowest score of 751. Frequently asked question, how can somebody get 751? Because if you remove the 600 points from their score, which was a nomination score, because people get 600 points for nomination, how can anybody have 151 kind of a score? Well, I should also then remind you to look back on the people who received invitations under CEC, Canadian Experience Class, on the 13th or 16th February. I don't remember the day. They got it with a score of 75. Like, who has a score of 75? But we also then disclosed and proved that if you only have a basic qualification, education qualification, you have 1 year of Canadian work experience, you have the required IELTS scores or the language proficiency scores, then you can very well score 75 or be in that range. So that's absolutely possible. So these are obviously a lot of candidates who are still eligible under the PNP as well. They would have applied for PNP nomination. They would have received the nomination. So what if the score is 150, 151? They would have got 600 points and therefore now on their way to submitting their PR application. After that, we then obviously the next day, as is the norm, we had the express entry draw only for CEC applications, CEC applicants. 3,000 invitations were issued, and the lowest score, which dropped by 1 point, the previous draw was at 404. This score was at 403. Now, if for people who are interested, if you have been checking the pool breakdown, you would see that the numbers are going up and up and up each week, or rather each 2 weeks. When the draws happen, tons of invitations are issued, and yet the scores remain on the same point. Rather, this time they just drop by only 1 point. But similarly, the pool breakdown above the scores of 471 is like, it's like going up. The levels are rising, the numbers are rising, and therefore you know that when the all program draws will happen, and they will definitely happen, I have no doubt about it. Whenever those draws will happen, the scores are going to be perilously high, but that's how it is. In Canada programs, okay, what do we have for in Canada programs? 7,300 more applications were accepted than intended in the TR to PR program. Unbelievable. IRCC, how can you even do that? Can you believe this? Due to a technical error, I mean, and we are supposed to be the first world country which has got such sophisticated, clean, good systems. IRCC received 7,307 additional applications into the international graduate stream of the TR to PR pathway. Canada actually reached its intake cap of 40,000 students within the 25 hours of launching the TR to PR program. But following the error, the immigration minister had to approve a temporary policy to allow these applications to be processed. What does that mean? For such a good system that we have, somehow what happened was that while people were in a rush to submit their TR to PR applications under the international graduate stream, if at a given point of time, 2 applications were submitted at the same time, okay, which was a freak occurrence, which apparently happened 7,307 times, the system recorded it as receiving 1 application, whereas 2 applications were received. So somebody pressed the button at the same time in different places. It was recorded as 1 application received, whereas it was, multiple applications received. Therefore, when they made a collective, and they had a live counter running, right, which showed you how many applications have been received. So the minute they hit 40,000, they closed the program. And then when they did the actual tally, they realized there were 7,307 additional applications. So they went back to the minister and said, hey, we made a mistake. We got 7,300 more. What are we going to do? Now, they could have refused the additional applications, and that would have created a backlash because they got a lot of positive media feedback for having done what they did. So what they were doing is that they avoided doing that, and instead they just sort of, accepted these applications. The minister issued a public policy and said, okay, we will process these applications. So another news I have for TR to PR applicants is, from what I'm hearing, from what I'm understanding, and from what I have seen, again, not data related, not a statement that IRCC has made, but what I have personally seen, and that of people who have filed incorrect applications, of people who have filed incomplete applications, IRCC is actually being flexible. They are reaching out to people and saying, okay, complete this form again, or give us this document, They are not being stringent, strict, and refusing the application straight away. So that is a huge, huge relief. I'm not saying it will be applied to everybody. Please don't get me wrong. Don't come back and quote me and say, hey, you said it would not be refused, mine got refused. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying so far from what I have seen, okay, I'm just giving you what I've seen so far of some of the applicants that I personally, we know, and our team sort of helped them submit their application. It has happened that they were given another, I wouldn't say given another chance, but they were asked to submit a document which was not correctly submitted in the first place. So that's a bit of a relief for a lot of you out there. Also, the understanding is that those 7,300 additional applications were accepted. There are a lot of these people who submitted when they were not eligible at all. So those applications automatically will get cancelled. There are also a lot of people who have started withdrawing their applications because they are now eligible in the CEC draws, and therefore they are submitting. They are more, CEC is considered to be more reliable at this point of time, obviously, because at least there is a process, there is a established timeline. So people are more working towards submitting those applications and withdrawing their applications from TR to PR. So I don't think these 7,300 will make a big difference, but this is what has happened. So I wanted to share that with you. Okay. And in other news, we then have that immigration agreement extended with Newfoundland and Labrador. As I'm not sure how many of you know that. What does this mean? The immigration agreement has been extended. It basically means that Canada, as the federal government, as the federal aspect of things, runs the country, or rather governs the country on a federal level. Then there are provinces, right? We have 13 provinces and territories in Canada. And each province has jurisdiction on the way they run their business in that province. Therefore, the PNP programs are run under an agreement between the province and the federal government, whereby they've come to an understanding that the province will have this, and this say in how they choose the people that they choose in nominating in the way they run the program. So the agreement between Newfoundland and Labrador has been extended. That is the news. And then 184,000 new permanent residents were welcomed this year, and in July itself they have got 39,500, 35,700 were confirmed in June. We still expect that 217,000 newcomers in the remaining 5 months of this year would be formalized. So this basically is in reference to the immigration quota, immigration target for this year. As you know, there is a quota of 401,000 people for this year. And this number 184,000 refers to that quota, that number. This is not ITAs. For some reason, people confuse themselves that the immigration target is ITAs. ITAs is not the quota, is not the target. It's the number of people. Okay. So 184,000 people have already become permanent residents. This includes people under the economic programs like CECs, FSWs, PNPs, etc. It also includes people who have been confirmed under the family sponsorship, whether it's the spouses, whether it's the parents, common law partners. It also includes under the humanitarian and compassionate grounds. It also includes under the caregiver program. It also includes under the business immigration programs, the self-employed, the startup visa programs. So combination of all that and their families, all of the people who are in combination collectively made permanent residents, that figure was 184,000 people. Okay, what else have we got? The biggest Arrima draw. You see, so many of biggest things happening this particular week. So there was a draw in Quebec as well for under the Arrima portal. They invited 515 applicants to apply for permanent selection in August, or on the 12th of August. And these were invited under the Quebec regular skilled worker program. And obviously these people would have completed their expression of interest. Now, for people who do not know, Quebec also has a separate program or a portal. Quebec, just the way I explained to you about the PNP programs and how all the provinces have a separate agreement, Quebec actually has a separate immigration program altogether. So they are not part of the PNP programs. They do not have an arrangement like other provinces have in terms of the immigration process. Quebec, on the contrary, has a separate immigration program. They have a right to choose whoever they want based on their criteria that have been established. Once they have chosen somebody, once they have nominated somebody, once they have given the CSU or the selection certificate to somebody, IRCC cannot refuse that application unless that person is inadmissible to Canada. This is the difference. With the other PNP programs, what happens is you may receive a nomination from Ontario, from Manitoba, from Saskatchewan, from British Columbia. That's fine. You will receive a nomination, but that nomination does not guarantee you an approval in permanent residence. There's a big difference. You need to understand this. It basically means that IRCC, when they receive your application for permanent residence, they will conduct assessment of eligibility whether you're eligible or not, number one. Number two, the fact that you have intentions to make good of your intentions to reside in that province. And three, the fact that you are inadmissible to Canada. These are the three main criteria under which a PNP application would be assessed for PR by IRCC. This is for all the provinces and territories except Quebec. For Quebec, if you get selected, if Quebec has selected you, issued you the certificate of selection, then IRCC cannot conduct an eligibility assessment, cannot conduct whether you want to live there or not kind of an assessment. The only thing they will check is for your inadmissibility. And if you are not inadmissible to Canada, then you would be approved. You would basically go through. So therefore, a huge difference between the two, between Quebec and everything else. Well, obviously, Quebec also has a separate immigration program whereby they have a very big quota, almost 40,000 people who they can select. And they have a separate portal called Arrima. For people who did not know, you could create your expression of interest separately. The only thing is that there is a very heavy preference, heavy reliance on the French. And if you are not proficient in French, then you will realize that you may not have enough or sufficient points in your portal score, and you might not have a good chance there. Okay, what else have we got? I think that's just about it. Well, you should follow us for our weekly immigration news, updates, and more. We have several social media platforms ongoing, obviously Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. By all means, give it a shot. Follow us, subscribe to the channel, and do everything that everybody else tells you to do. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, then this is here. Yeah. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, then you should hit that smash that subscribe button, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a share, do all that things, etc. You should, if you are not following us, you should try and follow us on Instagram, because that is one place where we do upload a lot of quality content, also 1-minute short videos, small snippets, and obviously all the updates get updated there first. This is what I wanted to tell you. Obviously, if you want to make an appointment with me to discuss your application, to discuss your profile, I am, after all, an ICCRC licensed immigration consultant, and I am authorized to give you immigration advice. So do, feel free to book an appointment if you want to. That's the link. Take care. All the best.